might notice that I've taken the warning off because I don't regard my own situation to be any different to any other person sailing in the ocean now, because all the systems are now in place, working. I'm an experienced sailor because I've done what I did to learn how to handle Tinkerbelle and find out all of her foibles. And so I just wanted to say a few words about sailing single-handed and Tinkerbelle, because when I arrived at Falmouth, Tim, the gentleman with the nice harbour launch, he came and spoke to me first, and he immediately noticed that the boat was called Tinkerbelle and said, did I realise that there was another Tinkerbelle that came to Falmouth in the 1960s that sailed across the Atlantic? And I said, yes, I was aware of it, but I wasn't aware that Tinkerbelle actually stopped at Falmouth, and because this is the only place I've stopped on the southern coast, and so, and not by choice either. And so yes, he told me about this the Tinkerbelle, which was a much smaller boat than mine, but at that time it was the smallest boat to have made such a single-handed sailing across the Atlantic. And it sailed from Falmouth in America to Falmouth in the UK, in Cornwall. So it didn't actually land there accidentally. I went afterwards and had a look on the internet and to find out exactly what the Falmouth connection was. And so what's interesting is, whilst I've been sailing around doing what I'm doing, I discovered that I'm the smallest boat doing this. Wherever I go in the company of others who are sailing long distance, non-stop, this kind of thing, there's nobody doing it in a smaller boat than Tinkerbelle. Tinkerbelle's 22 feet, and this little boat that sailed in the Atlantic I think was perhaps 16 feet, maybe even less, but with a small cabin that had been added to it. And in those days they used to sail smaller boats. Everybody seems to have moved upwards with the size of the boats, and perhaps that's due to the changeover to wire rigging and aluminium masts and those sorts of things, that people feel that they can handle these bigger boats because maybe the masts don't break as often as they used to, or have as much trouble with rigging as they used to in the olden days. I don't know what the reason is, but generally people are travelling in boats between 30 and 40 feet. This seems to be the norm, and getting bigger too. Many people are saying 40 to 50 feet boats now. So the other thing I want to say is that I'm a poor person, I'm a pensioner, and I'm not rich, yet I am a sailor, and I have a history of working with boats. I've owned many boats, probably I've owned in excess of 10 boats, of various sizes and different constructions. And it's been an interest of mine all my life, but I find myself in my old age with only limited funds. And so is it right that somebody like me should be denied the opportunity of sailing the ocean? And so for people like me, we have a lot of experience, yet we don't have the money to make sure that all the systems are absolutely wonderful in place. And so, you know, what I'm saying is a 50-year-old boat. Now, you have to consider it's the same as sailing, you know, an old Cortina motor car, driving an old Cortina motor car around. The boat is 50 years old, the engine is probably 50 years old also. And so, such a boat, any object of this kind, it's a classic, and I regard it as such, and you know, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't want to change the engine. If I had the money and the time to accumulate enough money, I would recondition the engine completely so it was perfect. So it's really a matter of funds, and everything that I do has to be virtually done by myself unless I can't do it at all. And so I have to be able to turn my hand to anything. And anybody at sea needs to be able to do this too. And many wealthy people go to sea with no real experience of how to fix engines and fix systems, and they can run into trouble just as easy as anybody else, as I will show you in the next video, or the final video in the series, where even though I have 3 batteries on board and two sets of jumper cables, and also take the battery out and replace it with another one, it's possible for the engine, the starter motor, not to turn the engine over, and for the boat to be impossible to start. Any boat, this can happen to any boat. And so it's necessary to understand that when you go out to sea in a boat, even though it has an engine, and it might have a new Yanmar engine, or that's very reliable and so on and so forth, it only takes one small thing and it's out of action. And so it's necessary to be able to sail a boat without an engine. And I feel that's what I've been led to in all of what I've been doing now to lose the engine. It's training me. Nature teaches you what you need to know to be safe at sea. And you need to lose your engine, you need to have your mast break, you need to run onto a rocky headland and get away with it. You need to do this to understand and to train yourself in what the skills necessary to be a good sailor. And so, having had all these experiences that I've had so far, I feel confident that I can deal with anything. Of course, there are things that you can't deal with. If you run into a great big log or something in the Thames Estuary and it pierces a hole right through the side of the boat, you're going to sink, and that's your lot really. And so you just have to be prepared for anything. And there's nothing in this world that can prevent all possibilities happening. All you could do is be on the lookout, and it's necessary to be aware, if you're doing these kind of things, that anything can happen, and just to be prepared for that, and to be prepared in what you are comfortable with, not what somebody else tells you that might be the right way to deal with the situation, because everybody's different, and everybody needs to go with what they're comfortable with, that they know that it's going to get them out of whatever trouble they might have to land in. And so my advice is to study, practice, and make mistakes, and get through these experiences and become skilled at sailing wherever you are on the ocean.